then-CTV, part of the Aton broadcast system.
Tonight, officer down, a Mountie shot dead in Nova Scotia. Outlawing making babies for profit. And high-flying junkyard on the Friday File.
CTV News. Sitting in for Lloyd Robertson, here is Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. A terrible tragedy struck today in Nova Scotia. A veteran RCMP officer was shot and killed. Sergeant Derek Burkholder was called to one of the situations police fear the most, a domestic dispute, and he was apparently gunned down without warning. The man who opened fire was then shot and killed by other police. The shootings happened near Lunenburg in southern Nova Scotia. Local people were shaken and other Mounties were visibly upset. They say it's the first time an RCMP officer has been shot and killed on duty in Nova Scotia. More from CTV's Jim Munson.
8 hours after the double killings, and the body of Sergeant Derek Burkholder was slumped over the wheel of his cruiser. Burkholder and 3 other officers had responded to a domestic complaint. They had just talked to suspect Ronald Stevens. Moments after that conversation, police say Stevens opened fire. Burkholder never had a chance.
The backup members, having witnessed this, returned fire and killed the suspect.
With 2 dead men, it was left to a police investigative team to sort out what went so terribly wrong. There is shock and disbelief in this tiny Nova Scotia community of Martins Brook. For the brothers of the man killed by the RCMP, this senseless tragedy is just beginning to sink in.
Hurts like hell, you know. You lose a brother and a policeman loses his life.
I have respect for people who died because they died needlessly. I don't have any respect for people who killed them.
Others in the community recall that Stevens was a nice man, but he had a quick temper.
I met him at the AA about a year ago or so, and he said so himself, and nobody would never cross him because he'd kill him.
The death of the Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman is especially tough on Sergeant Price. They were partners in the 1970s and friends for 28 years.
But when a member dies in cold blood and is murdered, you can't accept that. That's a tragedy. It really is.
And for a pastor who came to console friends and families of both victims, there wasn't a whole lot to say.
Don't feel this time to comment. Just comfort and pray with the family, both families. Pray for both and help.
Jim Munson, CTV News, Martins Brook.
A provincial police officer in Quebec was sent to prison today. He was sentenced for a traffic accident that killed 4 of his colleagues. Marc Saint-Germain walked into court in Quebec City with his wife, and he was given a 6-year prison term. Saint-Germain was found guilty earlier of criminal negligence for an accident almost 2 years ago. He was driving the car after drinking with the other officers. Ironically, they were celebrating the end of a police course on how to use breathalyzers. A defense lawyer says he'll appeal the sentence. The federal government tackled one of the toughest new issues facing our society today, an issue that touches on some very basic human values. The government brought in legislation to deal with the new techniques of reproducing human life. It wants to control this science and restrict some of the huge advances we've seen in recent years. The new legislation on reproductive technology bans surrogate motherhood, where a woman bears someone else's baby for a price. It also outlaws the purchase and sale of sperm and eggs and sex selection of infants except in cases of inherited disorders. And the bill bans techniques such as cloning human embryos or forming animal-human hybrids. The government says the legislation is aimed at protecting the value of human life, and it would keep baby making from becoming a commercial industry. But some people say it's cutting off the benefits of the new technology. The story from CTV's medical correspondent, Avis Favreau.
Oh, she's so cute.
This is what the proposed legislation is all about, says Ottawa. Limits to protect the health and dignity of both couples and children created by the new science of baby making.
I think infertile couples should feel better.
Dr. Patricia Baird says the new laws are exactly what Canadian couples need. She authored a 1993 report calling for controls on new reproductive technologies.
What it will do is ensure more equitable access to safe, evidence-based techniques.
And on several counts, the new regulations are welcomed by many. A proposed regulatory agency would set national standards for fertility clinics, issue licenses, and track the success and the safety of treatments. But the laws would also ban outright the sale of sperm and eggs. And that, some doctors say, will prevent many infertile couples from ever having children.
If you interpret it as there's no compensation of any kind to donors for egg or sperm, then I really think the sources of egg and sperm donors will essentially dry up.
Ottawa says it wants to investigate the possibility that eggs, sperm, and embryos be shared voluntarily. One of the country's largest sperm processing clinics says its surveys show free donations won't work.
80% of the donors said they would not be willing to participate if there was not some form of compensation.
And perhaps most controversial, Ottawa wants a ban on surrogacy, where an infertile couple pays another woman to conceive and bear them a child.
I would call it futile, because it's not going to stop anybody.
That law angers this man who asked not to be identified. He and his wife have healthy children after a successful surrogacy arrangement.
And without that opportunity, I wouldn't have a family. And for anyone to stand in my way, especially the government.
But what may benefit a couple may harm a society, says this ethicist. Restrictions, she says, protect procreation from becoming a consumer industry.
If we don't do that, is that we just make this into a business, that human reproduction is essentially just another industry in the country. And I think it's very important that we don't do that.
The proposals will likely become law in the coming months. But while they may restrict certain procedures here in Canada, they won't stop desperate couples from trying new reproductive technologies, if they can afford them, at clinics in the United States. Avis Favreau, CTV News, Toronto.
Still to come, cross-country march against women's poverty. Last stop for a caravan of road-weary women. Also ahead, Montana's Freemen face a system they tried to reject.
If you were building the perfect sedan, how would you do it? Well, you'd start with the luxuries you could get, like a Bose audio system with 6 individually tuned speakers and a keyless remote entry. Install a powerful 190 horsepower V6 engine. Then, as a finishing touch, you'd put it on Car and Driver's 10 best list. The Nissan Maxima, the perfect sedan.
There are now 4.
On Car and Driver's 10 best list, the Nissan Maxima, the perfect sedan.
There are now 4 Diet Snappers, but the search for more continues. Diet, the ultimate frontier.
I think we should turn back, sir. This is uncharted territory.
In our quest to be the #3 beverage maker in the world, we're striving to give every single flavor a Diet counterpart.
Sir, something's come up on the monitor. I think you should have a look.
Is that what I think it is?
Could it be?
Yes, another diet.
Snapple, the best stuff on earth.
You're asking me what's changing in my life?
I'm asking what's changing.
You want to know what's changing in my life?
Yeah.
Everything. Everything's changing in my life.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
Right.
Changing.
Everything. Everything's changing in my life.
Okay.
Everything is changing. Gonna bank.
Greedy grubs in your grass. The solution is dead simple. Bug Be Gone from Green Cross kills what's bugging your lawns and trees. Persistent pests in your plants. The solution is dead simple. Bug Be Gone from Green Cross kills what's bugging your flowers and vegetables.
Women from across the country are camping in the shadow of Canada's Parliament tonight. They drove to Ottawa from as far away as Newfoundland and British Columbia to get the attention of the country's lawmakers. And they'll march on Parliament Hill tomorrow to focus attention on the desperate poverty they say is affecting millions of Canadians. CTV's Roger Smith reports.
They honked their horns and hugged in solidarity for a long ride that's over and a political fight that's just begun. Two caravans from either end of the country converged on Ottawa to focus attention on poverty among women.
The main message is that women are poor and getting poorer.
Midge Cuthill drove all the way from Alberta. She's got a part-time job, but with 2 kids, it's a fight to get by.
People tell me they don't feel sorry for people like me, and I'm tired of it, and I want to get the message across. People that live in poverty, they want to work.
25-year-old Charlotte hitchhiked part of the way from BC, even though she's about to become a single mom.
How pregnant are you?
I'm due tomorrow.
She wants to counter those who say women like her have only themselves to blame for their problems.
I want them to stop crapping on single moms, to put it really bluntly.
The protest theme is jobs and justice, bread and roses, and they want Ottawa to deliver.
The message to the government is that you promised us job creation, protecting social programs, and a national childcare program when you were elected. What women across this country are saying, it's time to deliver on those promises.
This federal minister says the deficit makes it tough, but concedes the women do have a point.
When they talk about poverty, I think that they're right. I think we have to do more.
Thousands will take their message to Parliament Hill tomorrow, and on Sunday, the National Action Committee on the Status of Women will choose a new president. It's a weekend that organizers hope will put women's issues a little higher on the national agenda. Roger Smith, CTV News, Ottawa.
The cost of living rose slightly last month to 1.5%, up from 1.4% in March and April. Statistics Canada says the culprits were higher prices for gasoline, new cars and trucks, auto insurance, and airfares. It also costs more to use a phone, pay the rent, and dine out. Some economists say higher inflation could spark higher interest rates. A 7-year legal battle ended in victory today for an Edmonton doctor. He was found not guilty of 15 counts of sexual assault involving 8 former patients. Dr. Bryant Litchfield choked with emotion as he left the court.
I feel like I'm floating. I feel so relieved I get to stay with my family.
Litchfield's legal problems aren't over. Just hours after his acquittal, it was revealed he'll be in court again this month on a new charge of sexual assault. It was laid last month when a woman lodged a complaint after reading reports of Dr. Litchfield's trial. There is a new surgical procedure that could help people suffering from heart failure. The technique is so radical, it could replace open heart surgery and even transplants in some cases. It's so simple that at first many cardiac surgeons wouldn't believe it worked. And maybe the most amazing thing of all is that the surgery was developed in the jungles of Brazil. Timothy Johnson reports.
It started 2 years ago in a small town of 10,000 people in southern Brazil. In a primitive rural hospital, Dr. Rondas Batista began doing an operation that defied conventional medical wisdom about how to help people with enlarged hearts. When the heart enlarges because of heart attacks or viral infections, it does not pump blood efficiently. Patients with the condition have symptoms like lack of energy and shortness of breath. And as the heart continues to deteriorate, patients ultimately die. For years, the only solution for patients with dangerously enlarged hearts has been a heart transplant. But Dr. Batista's operation is a radical alternative. He cuts out a chunk of the living but enlarged heart muscle, making the heart smaller and able to pump better.
When we talk about taking that same sacred muscle and removing a whole part of living muscle, I think it was pretty shocking.
But Dr. Batista has now done over 300 operations, and surgeons from around the world are coming to learn his procedure. Experts caution the procedure is still experimental, but the operation appears to have so many potential benefits over standard treatment that surgeons expect the numbers to increase dramatically in the coming months. Dr. Timothy Johnson, ABC News.
Briefly, in other news tonight, Leading AIDS researchers say they're turning the terminal disease into a treatable one. According to a variety of reports, doctors say combinations of existing drugs are eliminating the AIDS virus from infected people. A parasite on California strawberries is claiming more victims in Canada. 68 people in the Toronto area have now become sick. Flu-like symptoms can last up to 6 weeks. Washing the fruit may not remove the risk. And a criminal investigation is underway in the value jet crash that killed 110 people. Oxygen canisters carried on board marked empty were actually full. They may have sparked a fire that caused the disaster. Coming up, Montana's jailed Freemen defiantly face charges in court. Also ahead, 300 million new policies. The explosion of insurance in accident-prone China.
Just like an old friend, you can count on and trust. It's like smoking on the sunshine, right over the rust, treated to trim clad. Give it some TSC.
More people paint and protect more things with Trim Clad than with all other rust paints combined. Here's an offer that's too hot to handle. High heat barbecue enamel, tank paint, and barbecue cleaning brush.
Are they done yet?
Not yet.
There's something fresh baking in Tim Hortons oven.
First batch.
New Tim Hortons bagels.
Is that poppy seed?
Sesame, toasted. Here's the cinnamon raisin.
Cream cheese, butter. Here you are, Jane. Looks like a hit.
You've got bagels?
Yes, we've got bagels.
You've always got time for Tim Hortons.
Now enjoy a new toasted and buttered bagel with a coffee for just $1.49.
Up next on the late edition, faced with a deficit, the future of the Pembroke Airport may lie in privatization. And back on the campaign trail, Sheila Copps is doing all she can to get re-elected. Those stories and more right after the CTV News here on CHRO.
那可生意怎么了？
唉，不太妙，市场部老是收不到工程部的最新数据。
你需要 Lotus Notes 在网络上自动复制更新的数据，这样每个人都可以随时得到最新的信息，甚至是环球网上。
这样就能知己知彼，百战百胜。
一点儿也没错。
We figure there are enough nasty surprises in your life, so the last thing you need is one when it comes to your car. That's why at GM Goodwrench Service Plus, we use only genuine GM parts and fix it right the first time. GM Goodwrench Service Plus. The plus is in the service, not the price.
One by one, the Freemen of Montana were marched into court today to face a long list of federal charges. The anti-government activists surrendered last night after holding FBI agents at bay for nearly 3 months. But the Freemen haven't given up their defiant attitudes. CTV's Tobias Fisher has the story.
The standoff may be over, but the Freemen continued their protest in a Montana courtroom today. Federal marshals had to restrain one of the group's leaders, Rodney Skirtle, when he shouted objections at the judge. Another Freeman, Canadian Dale Jacoby, challenged the spelling of his name.
Well, obviously, they have certain ideas about various issues that they want to express. There's an appropriate way to do that, and they'll have an opportunity to bring their ideas forward.
14 Freemen face criminal charges, which include check fraud, uttering death threats, and avoiding arrest.
As to any future charges, I'm sure the grand jury is free to consider that. But there were no charges dropped and no deals made.
No deals, but more importantly, no dead bodies. The peaceful end to the Freemen standoff contrasts with the fatal confrontations at Ruby Ridge, Idaho, and Waco, Texas. This time, the FBI was all talk and no action.
One factor was our patience. One other factor, I'm sure, was the resoluteness with which we were there. The defendants knew that the FBI was not going to go away, that arrest was inevitable.
Not ups and downs.
Agents negotiating with the Freemen said there was no agreement until 2 hours before the surrender. Friends of the anti-government protesters said it was a difficult moment.
This is a tough land and it breeds tough people. And so for them to give up this
was just, I don't think I could have done it.
It was like watching the Old West walk by.
Today, the FBI scoured the ranch, searching for weapons and evidence. They also reclaimed the Freemen's hilltop lookout to raise the flag and take a picture. Tobias Fisher, CTV News.
The largest Protestant denomination in the United States is going after Jews. The Southern Baptists have decided to try to convert as many as possible. The decision came at the conclusion of the church's annual meeting. The Southern Baptists believe that converted Jews will hasten the second coming of Christ.
There'll be a day when all Israel will be saved and come to know that Jesus Christ was indeed the Messiah.
The Southern Baptists claim they are the friends of Jews, but Jewish groups say with friends like that, who needs enemies?
This resolution for me is an act of spiritual arrogance, and it is an insult and an affront to the Jewish religion and to the Jewish people, not only in America, but throughout the world.
Jewish groups say the Southern Baptist fervor to convert could seriously hurt Judeo-Christian relations. There's a kind of religious fervor these days in China for, of all things, insurance policies. Not too long ago, insurance was illegal in China, and now it's become so popular, people are lining up in the streets to buy policies. Hundreds of millions of Chinese have signed up. But if insurance is big business in China, it is also risky business. CTV's Holly Doan explains why.
Just another sales meeting at the China Pacific Insurance Company. Here, sales staff sing the praises of whole life policies before hitting the street to sell insurance in the world's biggest market. 40 years ago, Chairman Mao outlawed insurance as unnecessary in a communist state. Times changed, says this insurance executive. We found the Communist Party can't take care of everybody. In China, insurance policies are sold by the millions. The market is enormous, but so are the risks in what may be the most accident-prone nation on earth. It's mayhem on the nation's highways, where more than 70,000 people die each year in road wrecks. Last year, 18,000 died in workplace accidents. And China has so many air crashes, authorities stopped reporting them. All told, 100,000 Chinese die each year in fires, accidents, and disasters. This space rocket explosion destroyed a village. Despite the vast market, no one knows the cost of insuring this all-risk society.
Because we don't have very good government statistics, so we're making estimates as to what the claims are going to be, and we're basing it on what has happened in other countries. But it's possible we are wrong.
And yet, China is experiencing the biggest boom in insurance history. 300 million Chinese took out insurance last year, and it's no wonder why. Holly Doan, CTV News, Beijing.
And when we return, air trafficking in plane parts on the Friday File.
I love my dad, and I love saving money. So I really love Canadian Tire's Father's Day sale. I just bought my dad Thymo Auto Polish and Liquid Cream Wax, just $24.99 each.
I saved $20 on this Wen polisher and waxer. It was only $54.99.
Canadian Tire didn't invent Father's Day.
But with savings like these,
they made it better.
Canadian Tire. Everyday low prices made better.
In order to have a great football team, you have to have a great quarterback. Got a guy by the name of David Archer that's going to fill the bill. The pass doesn't go, you can always turn around and hand that ball to Reggie, and Reggie will get some yardage. We should score a lot of points. I'm glad to have the opportunity to go over to Toronto and see if we can't kick those Argonauts into Lake Ontario.
Call the Rough Rider ticket office today. Season tickets and mini packs are available in all price ranges. Get back in the game.
Personally, I just can't wait. It's going to be a great year.
Butler Chevrolet's Cadillac is busy breaking prices on all their pre-owned vehicles. Come on in and see price breaker specials like this 91 Chevy Cavalier station wagon. An all-star edition with air, AM/FM cassette, and automatic transmission for the wagon enthusiast. And this 94 Toyota 4Runner, a 4x4 5-speed with AM/FM cassette and very low mileage.
Finally tonight, the Friday File will show you a pile of junk collected from around the world, and we have Abe Silverman to thank for it. Abe took a flying leap into a new venture 4 years ago. He opened Canada's only aircraft dump, and his idea took off. Now, grateful collectors of vintage aircraft looking for second-hand wings and props have turned the high-flying garbage man into a wealthy man. CTV's Mark Sextrom reports.
It looks like an aircraft graveyard. Here lie the remains of hundreds of airplanes, big and small, old and new, foreign and domestic.
We've recovered airplanes from bottom of the lakes. We've taken them off the top of mountains in very heavy timber and muskeg on several occasions. And some of them are very challenging. They don't all crash on airports. Aircraft that...
Abe Silverman scours the world for aircraft parts.
That one I brought in from the Philippines. That one came in from Belgium.
Some he acquires over the phone.
Yeah, I bought the 4 airplanes in Angola with a lot of spares. We sold at £30,000.
Others he finds at auctions in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe.
Ready advanced at 36, 38,000. I spent 30 years in the automobile parts business. Have had my own airplane for years. Always had trouble finding parts to keep that airplane flying. Decided the best way to find parts for my airplane is to go into the aircraft parts business.
What started as a hobby is now a multi-million-dollar-a-year business.
It's a gear strut for a 400 series Cessna, and a new one is about $15,000.
And you're selling that for?
For about $5,000.
Along the way, he's also picked up some rare aircraft, including a communist Chinese trainer and a truly Royal Navy trainer.
This one here is somewhat unique because it has Prince Andrew's signature in the logbook. He flew this airplane.
Abe Silverman has done very well in a business he got into almost by accident, proof that you can sometimes succeed by winging it. Mark Sextrom, CTV News, Edmonton.
And that is our newscast for this Friday. Tomorrow on Canada AM Weekend, Patsy Cline impersonator Gail Bliss brings the legendary singer's music back to life. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Peter Murphy will be here tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend. See you Monday.
CTV News, Canada's most watched newscast. Why did this woman give up a 6-figure salary? Because she's more interested in gold, Olympic gold. Tomorrow on CTV News.